Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Overtime Podcast, a Cold Front Report multicast. I'm one of your two co-hosts, Clayton Garrett. You can find me on Twitter at CFR Clayton, and joining me as always.
I'm Jeff Uvino. You can find me on Twitter at RealJUVEINO.
Oh, it feels good to be back behind the microphone talking about football. I'll admit that. It's been a weird bye week. It really has, and I've been looking forward to talking about this Chargers game, mostly because I think this will be a very exciting football game. Now, Jeff, just looking at it from a broad standpoint, what are you expecting going into this game?
Well, I mean, when we're looking at the Los Angeles Chargers, first of all, they haven't had a game. They haven't played a game this year that's been decided by more than 10 points. And that's really striking. They've lost 5 games by 5 points or less. And that's really intriguing if you're a fan of a team that you don't really see the Chargers that much. They play on the West Coast. We don't really watch Chargers games that much, being in Buffalo with the East Coast bias. They're not really in our television market at all. So this is a team that a lot of people don't really know about. We know about the limited success of first-year quarterback Justin Herbert and what he's been able to do in his time there. But really, all of their games are close. They lost to the Chiefs by 3 points. They lost to the Saints by 3 points. They lost to the Broncos by 1, and they just beat the Jets by 6 this past weekend. So, I mean, unless something is going to change with this trend this deep into the season, this is going to be a close game.
Yeah, that's one thing I think everybody can be assured going into this game is that I don't think the Bills are going to blow the Chargers out. I don't think the Chargers are going to take the Bills by surprise. Now, like you just mentioned, all of their games have been played pretty close. They've played to their opponent, to their competition. They've pretty much done that every single game this year. And more times than not, they have found a way to lose than they have found a way to win, as they sit at a 2-7 record right now. Going into Buffalo, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen. This is a matchup that I'm really looking forward to. Because Justin Herbert, man, some people are talking about if Justin Herbert is the best rookie quarterback in NFL history. And I'm not going to sit here and argue one way or another. But point being, Justin Herbert has been by every stretch of the definition, he has been amazing in his rookie year. Has he been erratic at times? Yeah. Has he missed his points at some points? Yeah. Has he had a few bad throws? Absolutely. But all those things aside, Justin Herbert has been electric in his rookie season. They have a good supporting cast around him. I understand the running game isn't what it was with Austin Ekeler previously, but he could be coming back this week. What are your overall thoughts of Justin Herbert so far in his rookie campaign?
Well, I want everybody to think back to Josh Allen's rookie year and where he was then. And then look at his progression. Allen in year 3 now, he is leaps and bounds better than he was his rookie year. Allen was very raw coming into the league. We saw that. We knew that when the Bills drafted him, and we've seen his progression. Now, Justin Herbert, he's a guy who came into the league, and he was what Bills fans probably hoped Josh Allen was going to be right away, because Josh Allen was definitely a work in progress. People needed to be patient with him. Herbert has come in and he's made quality plays. He's played really well in his limited time. And if Herbert's a guy who's going to progress next season and into his 3rd season as much as Josh Allen did, you're looking at the franchise quarterback of the Los Angeles Chargers. And that's what he could become, because he's played very well with limited experience. And maybe it's the system he's in that's helped him adjust so well. Maybe he was just more NFL ready than Josh Allen was, or maybe it's the playmakers that he has around him. But he's been able to make a name for himself enough to where the national media is recognizing it and is taking notice of this guy out on the West Coast who's playing really well as a rookie.
I really wasn't all that high on Justin Herbert coming on in the draft. I honestly thought he was going to be a bust. And here he is. And you look at the athletic profile and what he can do with the football in his hands. I don't think he's as athletic. I'm not going to say as athletic, as Josh Allen. He's close to Josh Allen. He has this similar abilities to that of Josh Allen, in my opinion. And you're seeing him flourish those abilities and put them on display in his rookie season, whereas Josh Allen's kind of had to ease into the production that we have come to know it here in 2020. But you kind of alluded to the targets that he is surrounded with, one of them being, in my opinion, the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL, Keenan Allen. And Keenan Allen, he has quietly been the best wide receiver in the AFC until Stephon Diggs came to Buffalo. He really has been. And Keenan Allen, he's coming off of a 16 reception, 127-yard performance last week where he was Herbert's favorite target. And I think a lot of the success of Justin Herbert, I'm not going to say all of the success, but a lot of it has to be credited to a solid veteran wide receiver for Justin Herbert to rely on, such as Keenan Allen, who you will see line up in the slot a lot of times during the duration of a game. And Keenan Allen, he really has been a steady weapon for the Los Angeles Chargers for a long time, since Philip Rivers was there, and now he has been the favorite target for Justin Herbert. And you see him on a weekly basis making an impact, making a difference. Keenan Allen may be old in this league, but he's still playing young. You look at the separation he can get, the routes that he can run, the things he can do with with his foot speed, with his quickness, with the agility that he has. Keenan Allen is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. And I don't know. I know a couple years ago, there was an interesting thing that happened. Vontae Davis retired at halftime the last time the Bills had to play the LA Chargers. It was also, coincidentally enough, Josh Allen's first career start. But let's not forget, Keenan Allen retired Vontae Davis. I know that name doesn't sit well with Bills fans. It's kind of, I don't know. I've always thought the Vontae Davis thing was pretty funny. But he retired Vontae Davis. So Keenan Allen, people should not sleep on Keenan Allen. I think if it's any matchup people should be watching this week on the defensive side of the ball for the Bills or the offensive side of the ball for the Chargers, it has to be whoever's lined up with Keenan Allen. I'm really interested to see what they choose to do to try and find the matchup that works best to go up against Keenan Allen, if they're going to have Trey White travel all across the field, because there are multiple targets in this Chargers offense, that being Hunter Henry and Mike Williams. But I'm really intrigued to see what they plan to do to try and attack Keenan Allen, because he is without a doubt Justin Herbert's favorite target. I want to see if Trey White's going to travel with him, or if they're going to be content with just letting Keenan Allen line up against Teron Johnson or Siran Neal in the nickel. I think that's a losing battle, if you will. But what are your overall thoughts on how Keenan Allen matches up against this Bills defense?
Well, I think Tre'Davious White really has his work cut out for him. I think that Trey White is obviously going to be taking the majority of snaps against Allen, even though he likely won't travel with him, because the Bills defense has shown that Trey White doesn't really follow receivers that often. But I don't want to undercut the value of Mike Williams. Keenan Allen is a much more complete receiver than Mike Williams is, I think, but Williams has really big playability. And I think that unless you kind of keep him blanketed and keep him covered, he's going to come out and bite you when you're least expecting it. Mike Williams is a guy who could go 3.5 quarters without having a catch, and then he has a huge 70-yard touchdown to win the game in the end, or a big play in the first half, and then he doesn't really show up the rest of the game. Obviously, Keenan Allen is your first priority for the Bills secondary, but you don't want to discredit Williams and his ability to beat you if you're not really paying attention to him as much and you're giving him favorable matchups. He can hurt you. And Hunter Henry is going to be a tall task for both the Bills secondary and the linebacking core. I'm not really sure what Leslie Frazier's answer is going to be for him, but he's shown that he can put up numbers, and he's a tough matchup for opposing defenses. I mean, he's kind of like a lesser Travis Kelce. I see in this guy. He's a big body, he's quick, and he's good with the ball in his hands, and he always seems to be there, especially around the goal line. So I think a big thing for the Bills secondary is you can take away Allen all you want, but don't let their receivers, their secondary weapons hurt you. Limit the amount of options that Justin Herbert has. If he's only able to look to Allen for a lot of the game, and you're taking Allen away a lot of the time, then I think you're going to fluster Herbert. And I think that being able to put pressure on him adds to that as well.
It's really interesting because we talk about the variety of targets that Justin Herbert has at his disposal. Well, this is also the first time the Bills are going into a week without any of their defensive backs on the injury report. And I think that's a factor that people are overlooking at this point going into this Chargers game. Is not Micah Hyde, not Josh Norman, not Levi Wallace, not D. Marlowe. Nobody is on the injury report in the Bills secondary this week, meaning they will have all of their talented defensive backs at their disposal to use however they want to in this game. And that's something I'm really interested to see at what they do for against the Chargers, because we're talking about the variety of targets that Justin Herbert has: Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, and Cody Wells chimes in the comments on the live stream that Milano is going to be covering Hunter Henry. And, ever since Matt Milano's been on this football team, he's evidently been the tight end eraser in the NFL. He's been one of the best linebackers covering tight ends throughout the entire league. So if Matt Milano is healthy for this football game and he's not back on a limited basis where they're just rotating him in on third downs, oh yeah, I'm 110% on board with Milano being responsible for Hunter Henry in this football game. But having this many defensive backs at your disposal, the Dane Jacksons, Josh Norman, Levi Wallace, you have Trey White, you're going to have that. It's all dependent on how many they activate. But assuming they activate the players that have been impactful in their playing time, like Dane Jackson, like Levi Wallace. I mean, some people have a lot of things to complain about with Josh Norman, but Josh Norman. You also have Trey White. I think you could be looking at a game where the Bills have a lot of flexibility and a lot of versatility with what they can do with their secondary looks in an attempt to confuse Justin Herbert and also at an effort to try and stop his variances of targets. I'm really intrigued and excited to see what Leslie Frazier has dialed up to try and combat what is or has been a potent Chargers offense, an offense like you kind of alluded to with Mike Williams' production. Sometimes, this offense, it reminds me a lot about the Bills watching them play, just watching how they spread the ball out. And, Justin Herbert relies on Keenan Allen mostly in this offense, and he also gets it to Mike Williams. He also gets it to Hunter Henry. It's going to be interesting to see what the Bills defense can do with all of their defensive backs to match up against this Chargers receiving corps.
Yeah, a couple
a moment.
That being Dane Jackson, Josh Norman, and Levi Wallace. And I thought that it would be the most effective route for Leslie Frazier to take would to be each use them in different scenarios where they're each better. And so now, this being the first time that all three of those players are healthy on the same week, here's your first opportunity to do that. Now, I don't know where Frazier's going to go. Is he going to let Wallace start the game and be your primary guy until something happens and then make adjustments? Or has he planned to bring in different guys for different packages? When the Chargers offense gives different looks, are we going to see Wallace on some, Jackson on some, and Norman on some? And that's a big question mark on mine coming in. It's going to be interesting to watch how the Bills defense decides to use those three, because I don't think that there's much. I'm sure that people have their preferences of which one of those three players they think should be getting most of the snaps at that cornerback 2 position. But I don't think there's much difference talent wise or the way that they've performed this year. And so it'll be intriguing to see how they utilize those players and who steps up this week.
And I think a large part in the Bills' success on the defensive side of the ball against the Chargers is going to come from whatever production they can get out of the defensive line in the front 7 of this football team. Because you look at the offensive line that the Chargers have, comprised or composed for Justin Herbert, they've put a lot into this offensive line, guys. Brian Bulaga, Trey Turner, Dan Feeney, who I believe was a first-round pick, and then you also have Forrest Lamp, who was also a first-round pick, and they have Sam Tebby at left tackle. And so they have invested a lot in this offensive line. Austin Ekeler could be coming back this week. That's a big point of emphasis for this Bills defense, because if they have Austin Ekeler at their disposal, this offense, I'm not going to say it completely changes the complexion of their offense by any means, but I will say it's a dimension of their offense that definitely opens things up. That's something that'll leave Leslie Frazier awake at night. In the last couple of games, Tremaine Edmonds has looked much improved from the first half of the season. Jeff and I are on record, criticizing Tremaine Edmonds and how he has looked thus far this season. And these last 2 games, I'm of the belief that he has really kind of had a rebound performances in back-to-back weeks, and he's stringed together 2 pretty decent performances, that being against the Seahawks, then the Cardinals. I'm interested to see if he can keep that up against the Chargers, because if they have Austin Ekeler back, the production of Tremaine Edmonds is huge in this game to try and level what Austin Ekeler can bring for this football team, whether he's 100% or 80%. And also, Kalen Ballage has been a pretty decent replacement for Austin Ekeler, and he's been able to get some production on the ground. The Bills' run defense has really been their bugaboo throughout the whole season. So it's I say it every single week. They need to stop the run. They need to stop the run. This week, it is important to stop Kalen Ballage or Austin Ekeler if they have him at their disposal. If they get the run game going to set up their passing attack with Mike Williams, with Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry, I think this is going to be a long day for the Bills defense. They need to really kind of keep this one out of reach. If they can get to a 2-possession lead against the Chargers, I'm not going to say it's over, because Justin Herbert is a special quarterback. He's not afraid to take chances down the field with the football. That's one thing that's a similar aspect and a similar trait to that of Josh Allen that is going to make this team a threat no matter what point in the game they're in. There's a reason none of their games have been decided by more than 10 points, because they're a team that's competitive at the end of the game. They faced adversity. Have they gotten the win more times than not? No. That's something that good football teams do. Good football teams find a way to win in those situations, and the Chargers simply haven't this season. But that's not to discredit any of their performances thus far this year, because they have been they've been a good football team. They just haven't gotten those tight, close games to go the way they'd want them to. So their record doesn't really imply how talented they really are. I think this really is a talented football team, and with Justin Herbert at quarterback, I think they can really do some special things on that side of the football. It's just a matter of the Bills defense being able to try and stop this Herbert-led offense at certain opportune times and create turnovers like they have these last 2 games.
Yeah, turnovers have been huge for the Bills defense, and I think it's kind of been a key to the Bills defense turning the corner, per se, in these last couple games. I know they've still given up a lot of yards, a lot of points, but they have gotten those stops, and they've led to points for the Buffalo offense. Looking at the Chargers game from the standpoint of the Bills defense, what's the first thing that you can do to frustrate and slow down a rookie quarterback? You take away his run game. I don't care who's playing running back for the Chargers. You take away their run game, which obviously that's been a big issue for the Bills defense this season. But if you can do that, you're going to make it a lot easier for yourself playing against a rookie quarterback. Make him beat you. Make him throw it to his good weapons that he has. Make him deal with pressure. I think the Bills need to blitz the hell out of Herbert this week, because that's the only way they've been able to put pressure on the quarterback. And you and I have talked about that on previous shows, is that the Bills have finally started to get some pressure by blitzing linebackers and blitzing safeties. AJ Klein has been a great blitzer for the Bills in the last couple of weeks. And so I think that if you send a lot of different looks, sending 5, 6, 7 guys at Herbert, then you're really going to be able to frustrate him some more and, limit the opportunities that the Chargers have, because the Bills are going to put up points in this game. We haven't really seen many defenses who have been able to shut down the Bills offense, especially when it's been playing well like it has the last couple weeks. And the Bills are going to put points up, and so it's really damage control. If your offense has been as good as the Bills have, it's damage control from a defensive standpoint, and you do that by limiting the rush game, and you do that by pressuring the quarterback.
And getting Matt Milano back in some capacity. I mean, he's not even on the injury report. I don't believe he's even on the injury report today for the first day of practice this week. Today being Wednesday, we're recording this a day later than we normally do. That being because, we're just talking about the upcoming game, not weeks previous as well. But Matt Milano coming back really could open things up for what they can do with AJ Klein, because I don't want to say that throwing him into coverage is any kind of, he's a liability in coverage. That's without a doubt. AJ Klein, when he is at his best playing football, it is not in coverage. You have to get him moving forward. You have to get him blitzing, or you have to get him in a gap assignment. He has to make plays moving forward rather than dropping back into coverage. But the point being, it's going to be interesting to see what they can kind of do if they have Matt Milano back, if they run more 3 linebacker looks where they simply just use AJ Klein more as a blitzer than anything else. That's something I'm interested to see. Speaking of which, having the bye week when they did, the week 12 bye, or the week 11 bye, is huge for this team, because, we keep talking about it throughout the show. Oh, well, they have all their DBs back. Oh, well, they have Matt Milano back. Well, they did sit John Brown today at practice, but we're all assuming he'll be okay. They did. Mitch Morse, who had a concussion, wasn't even on the injury report today. Having that week 11 bye week, that was huge for this football team, because now you look at their remaining schedule. You have the Chargers. I believe next week they have the Broncos and then the Steelers. Okay, well, you look to go 3-0, 2-1 that stretch against AFC teams, quality wins. A win against the Chargers this week means way more than that last-second Hail Mary loss the Bills took in Week 9 against the Cardinals. It means way more just beating the Chargers, a 2-7 team. It means way more beating the Broncos, who I believe are also a 2-7 team. So this is a big stretch for this team. The Bills are getting healthy at the right time, hoping they can stay healthy coming out of this Chargers game. It's going to be important for the Bills to take care of business against what we consider to be lesser quality opponents. Thank you, Cody. I was mistaken. Broncos is week 16, excuse me. But yeah, it is huge for the Bills to come away in this game with the Chargers with a victory against all these AFC opponents that they have on the latter half of their schedule. They only have one opponent left from the NFC West, that being the 49ers, which is next week, now that I remember right, and Cody corrected me in the comments. But this Chargers matchup is really interesting when we talk about their defense, the defensive side of the ball. You look at a defense that has a lot of potential with these two monsters off the edge, that being Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa are both single-handedly wrecked the last two matchups in which these two teams met each other, that being in 2018 and 2017. Nate Peterman started the 2017 game. That was the game he threw 5 picks in the first half, in case any of you forgot. But Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, it's huge in this football game. Having Deion Dawkins and Darrell Williams, those are two names that I'm going to be watching the whole time the Bills are on the offensive side of the ball. I understand Josh Allen's going to drop back and all that, this and the third, but the game is won and lost in the trenches on both offense and defense. You will win and lose the game across the line of scrimmage. And Melvin Ingram was inactive today in practice. He was out with a knee injury, and he remains questionable leading up to this week, but I'm assuming he's going to play. This is quite a matchup. I don't think the Bills have faced quite a pass rushing duo thus far this season like Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa.
Yeah, and so I'd turn that back on you then. How do you beat that? What adjustments are the Bills going to have to make? Because, none of the names in the Chargers secondary impress me that much. There aren't really any names that just kind of make me go, wow, you're going to have to game plan against those guys other than a Bosa and an Ingram. So what do you do? Do you design runs with Allen? Do you trust Allen's escapability? Do you run 3-step drops instead of 5? What do you do?
Well, I think it's a combination of everything you just touched on a little bit. You're going to see a lot of chips from the tight ends. You're going to see a lot of Allen moving out of the pocket. You're going to see a lot of quick passes. I think it's a variety of answers. You're going to have to do a lot of different things to try and neutralize the impact that these two are going to have on the game, because you look at a Joey Bosa, you look at a Melvin Ingram, one of them alone can wreck an offensive game plan, but the both of them combined, it can be an absolutely long day for your offense, as we have seen the last 2 times that these two teams matched up. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the Bills have a much more quality offensive line than we've seen in years past. Now, there's been a lot of chipping and talking on Twitter about what to make of Sean McDermott's comments of Mitch Morse being in the mix. Guys, let's not make something out of nothing. We all know the poker face Sean McDermott walks into those Zoom conferences with. He has a poker face. He's not going to tell anybody more than he needs to say. He's not going to straight out say to the Chargers, yeah, Mitch Morse is going to be our starter. Feliciano's moving to left guard or right guard or what have you. He's not going to say that. So with the expectation that the Bills' offensive line is Mitch Morse, John Feliciano, and maybe whether it's Cody Ford or Brian Winters, we'll see. But the expectation is that they're going to have 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen on the offensive line this week. And it's either Brian Winters or Cody Ford playing at right guard or left guard. I don't know. I don't know what guard position Cody Ford plays anymore. I don't know what position he plays anymore. But he hasn't looked good enough to say a definitive position just yet. But in this game, I'm going to expect a lot of quick passes to Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs. I have to, because you look at how this secondary is a little beat up. They've been without Derwin James through the whole season, and they have Nasir Adderley, and Casey Hayward enters this week questionable, and I believe they're missing somebody else. Excuse me. But this secondary, they're beat up and they're stretched thin, and I think the Bills do have a mismatch. If John Brown is activated for this game, the Bills do have a mismatch in this secondary going up against the likes of Michael Davis, Rayshad Jenkins. And they're missing Chris Harris. That's the other corner I was forgetting about. So they're missing 2 of their star players, and their third is coming into this game questionable. Now, I'm not sure if Casey Hayward is going to be good to go for this game, but if he's not, that is certainly indicative to you that this Bills passing attack could have a day against the Chargers. They could have a day with all these players active, but I anticipate a lot of quick passes. I anticipate them running the ball and setting the tone to start this game possibly at this big defensive line, because sometimes that's the best thing you can do to combat a solid pass rush is to run the ball right at them, to hit them with body punches and tire them out, and then air it out when they're tired up and they're not just pinning their ears back and attacking your quarterback. But certainly the two matchups on the offensive side of the ball for the Bills that I am going to keep my eyes on this week is Deion Dawkins and Daryl Williams going up against these two monstrous edge rushers. Because these two players, mark my words, the production or lack thereof of these two players, Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, assuming they both play, will dictate the outcome of this football game and the success for the Bills offense.
Yeah, I think for the Bills offense, just keep doing what you've been doing. I mean, they just torched two really good teams. I know that the Cardinals and the Seahawks have both had struggling defenses, but Allen has just torched both of them and keep rolling. I mean, you've had 2 weeks to prepare for this Chargers team here. And here's another thought that I have, and maybe this will give away my pick, whatever. The Bills are going to win this game because they're the best team in the AFC East. Last week, we saw Miami go to Denver and lose. You can't lose that game. If you're the best team in the AFC East, you don't lose to Denver and San Diego late in the year. And the Bills aren't going to lose to, I just said San Diego. The Bills aren't going to lose to Denver, and they're not going to lose to the Los Angeles Chargers because they're the best team in the AFC East, and you just don't lose those games, especially in your conference. It's teams you should beat, and it's teams that the Bills will. And so I think that you just keep rolling. If you're the Bills offense, you just keep rolling. You want a game plan to the pass rush of the Chargers, but you don't slow down your passing attack. You don't try to go something else. Go to what's worked the last few weeks and work season. First, if you're all in this week, because do you see this defense? I'm staring at the Chargers depth chart right now. Do you see this defense slowing down? This being the one that slows down Allen in his offense? Because I don't.
I don't know. See, that's the thing is I see these three linebackers because that's the most concerning thing about this defense to me, aside from the two edge rushers, is their linebackers. Kazir White, who probably won't be playing in this game due to COVID, but you never know with how these testings work, and information to the public is limited. You'll be told when he is or isn't going to play, which could be as late as Saturday. So we'll see the status of Kazir White, who currently leads this team in tackles. But Kenneth Murray, the rookie linebacker from Oklahoma, he has been dynamite this season, Jeff. He has been absolute dynamite. He's been a playmaker from sideline to sideline, and he's been there to make plays. And Denzel Perryman, the veteran inside linebacker who has been a staple of this defense for years, continues to have that hard-nosed impact in the run defense and also be athletic enough in coverage to be an impact player in that area of the field. So really, I don't want to say that this is the defense that'll shut down the Bills. I'm not going to say that they're going to be, because in my opinion, Josh Allen and this offense is really different. They really are. They're not some fluke offense. They're not one of these teams that are a one-trick pony. This team, this quarterback is legit. I don't think there is a defense out there that'll flat out shut down the Bills and give them zero production, and they just simply don't look like the same team. I don't think that team exists on the remaining schedule, to be quite honest with you. So no, I can't definitively say that this is the defense that will or won't stop the Bills. But you look at the linebackers they have. I forgot to mention Malik Jefferson, who they also picked up from the Bengals last year. Malik Jefferson is also an athletic freak. So they have a lot of athletes in the second level of their defense. Now, when I see that, that's either going to be the strength or the weakness to a football team. That's something an opposing offensive coordinator will either take and they'll use it as a weakness to that team and just power the football out and use that lack of size that these linebackers have they have less size and more athleticism, So they take that lack of size and use it to their advantage and run the football with a player like Zach Moss or Devin Singletary. So I think that route is definitely open to this football team. But I've sat here on this podcast for the last however many weeks and said this team needs to run the football more. They need to run the ball. They need to establish their ground game at the start of the game. So I'm not going to simply predict that. I'm just pointing out the fact that that's a route that they could take against smaller linebackers. We've seen them do it before. Now, as far as this defense and what my concerns are facing them, it's certainly the pass rush and maybe these fast athletic linebackers making plays in the second level of the defense by effect of that pass rush, making an impact on Josh Allen and the balls that he was throwing. But I don't think this is the defense that'll stop the Bills. I think both of these offenses are going to make their plays. Both of these offenses are going to get their yards, are going to get their points, and it's just going to be a matter of which quarterback outduels the other, really.
And do you see Justin Herbert outdueling Josh Allen, the rookie? I mean, that's another storyline of this game is the Chargers haven't been able to finish games. There's a reason why they're 3-7 without having lost or won by more than 10 points because they've had trouble finishing games. And now I'm not blaming that all on Justin Herbert. There's enough, blame to go around. And also Herbert hasn't started every game of the season. But I think that knowing how Josh Allen has played in virtually his entire career, at the end of the game, his ability to lead game-winning drives, even when he's struggled in the second halves of games, he comes alive in the end of the game and he can lead that winning drive, the one drive that the Bills need. I mean, he's shown it time and time again. He can do it. I trust that more than I trust Justin Herbert's ability to finish games, a rookie who hasn't been able to win a lot of close games so far.
Yeah, you are not wrong in what you say about Justin Herbert I wouldn't say he's incapable of taking a team down the field at the last minute of a game, but we've seen Josh Allen do it 12 times.
Yeah, and maybe that's something that Herbert can improve upon. Maybe him just being a rookie, he's has a lot of good parts of his game right now, and he's played well in a lot of facets of the game, and maybe that's something that will come to him later in his career, his ability to finish games. But right now, I just don't think he has it yet. Keyword.
I wouldn't even necessarily put that more so on Herbert as I do the coaching staff, because there's a lot of factors that play into that last final minute drive. The confidence that you have in the players around you, the confidence that you have in the plays being called, the confidence in yourself to be able to have that savvy to go downfield and make the plays that you need to make in the situations that you need to make them. So, I think we're both kind of getting at the same thing here, but Jeff, I want to know first and foremost, what are your keys to victory on the offensive side of the ball for the Bills?
So, I mean, I think offensively, keep doing what you're doing in the air. I think that when you said throwing short routes to Diggs and Beasley would be big for the Bills, I wholeheartedly agree, and I think that that's something that will be big for them on picking up third downs. I think that the Bills' offense shouldn't try to go away from what it's done so far this season, but then I think your halftime adjustments are going to be big too, because it's been a storyline this season, the Bills struggling coming out of halftime. But I think just keep doing what you're doing. That's really my thing. If you want to have a graphic that says Jeff's offensive thing, keep doing what you've been doing in the air, because like I said, I don't think this Chargers defense is the one that slows you down.
I tend to agree. And, I'm pretty much going to echo your sentiments. It's that I think, and like Rob Roberson says in the comments, shout out to Rob, great guy, run the damn ball. I think you should run the ball. I really do. I think if you run the ball against this Chargers team, you're going to find a winded team. They're going to be tired. And you're a fresh football team. The Bills said it last week going into the bye week, is the objective is to find out what is going on with this running game. And they're not going to say that to play poker face and just save it for another week, if you will. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they should run the ball with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary in this game and use their wide receivers as an extension of your running game with short routes, with screen passes. I think that is really what's going to win you on the offensive side of the ball. And then find your chances, take your chances deep down the field, far and few in between. I'm saying you don't pull the trigger until you see the white in their eyes. That's the metaphor that I'll use. You should be taking your chances down the field, but I want quality chances. I want quality opportunities for these guys like Stephon Diggs and John Brown deep down the field. And, one thing I'm interested to see is the incorporation of Dawson Knox, because like we touched on just a minute ago, they're facing a very athletic linebacking core. I want to see, are you going to disappear again? That's really what I want to see. I'm at a certain point with Dawson Knox where I really want to see what this guy has, because I'm sick and tired of sitting here and twiddling our thumbs talking about, I'm sick of talking about potential with Dawson Knox. I'm tired of it, because we talk about the potential, we talk about his athleticism, we talk about the flashes that he's made. I think it's time that this guy should finally start making plays on a consistent basis. And whether, that could be part of the offensive coordinator, that could be with Josh Allen not simply trusting him with the football, because, Dawson Knox has had a tendency to drop the ball. But with that, Jeff, What would be your keys to victory on the defensive side of the ball for the Bills?
I think you need to continue putting pressure on the quarterback by blitzing, because you're not going to put pressure on the quarterback with just your 4-man rush. I mean, we know that. I think that's the Bills defense has kind of developed that as its identity. And I think it's also the time of the season where we can really start to put some weight to trends that have been happening throughout the year thus far. And so I think you need to blitz your linebackers and put pressure on Herbert, make him flustered. Don't make it easy for him to get the ball to Keenan Allen and to Mike Williams, to Hunter Henry, or whoever else. Use your good linebacking core to your advantage. And I think that they're going to be big, not only in blitzing, but also covering Hunter Henry and whatever else, backs and tight ends the Chargers throw at them, but also stopping the run. If Austin Eckler plays in this game, then Edmonds is going to be a big factor in slowing down the rush defense, as is Milano and whoever else. But my main thing is put pressure on the quarterback and do it by blitzing, because Leslie Frazier's unit has showed us this season that that's the way that it can get home, is by sending extra men and trusting your secondary.
We said it last week on the show where we were talking about things that we liked about this team as they progressed throughout the year, and you just said it. The recognition of having to manufacture pressure rather than just sending 4. And with sending pressure, you send your linebackers a lot. We've seen Tremaine Edmonds come off the edge. We've seen him blitz in the A gap. We've seen AJ Klein do both of those things too. But we haven't seen Matt Milano in full participation in quite some time. Matt Milano is the 3-dimensional Superman of this defense. He can do everything on that side of the ball. He is, without a doubt, hands down, the best linebacker on this team. And you touched on it, the strong linebacking core. That's not the song that we were singing a couple weeks ago. But now the fact that you get Matt Milano back in that room, a guy who is not a liability in any facet on the defensive side of the ball, not in coverage, not in run defense, and not in pass rushing. He is one of the best. He is a very underrated blitzer when they send him in packages. I think I agree with your sentiment again, that the fact that they need to manufacture pressure to find a way to rattle Justin Herbert. See how calm, cool, and composed he really is when you're sending pressure in his face with some of these defensive players. A lot of people aren't talking about it. The Bills are at full force this week on the defensive side of the ball. If this defense was ever going to come alive this season, it would be this game. And I feel like I've said that countless times. But you're not missing anybody. There's no excuses anymore on that side of the ball, assuming Matt Milano is fully healthy, which I would assume he was because he wasn't on the injury report. So Matt Milano should be good to go. He should be good to go for blitz packages in coverage, or he should be back on a full basis. He really should. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the defense. I'm looking forward to seeing what this defense does in terms of manufacturing pressure in an attempt to rattle Herbert and try and force him into mistakes. And that's really ultimately what I also agree with you is the goal on that defensive side of the ball, is the key to victory on that side of the ball, is forcing a young quarterback in Justin Herbert to make mistakes, make him look confused. The Bills defense, a lot of people always talk about opposing quarterbacks, opposing offensive coordinators, very often speak about how good this Bills defense is at disguising what they do, how good Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are at disguising the coverages that they're in until the ball is snapped. And I think that is something that people need to key in on, people need to look at and remember when the Bills have to face young, inexperienced quarterbacks such as Justin Herbert, because I think that's going to play a huge factor into this week's game. With that, I think it's time we predict some games. And I think we only have 2 games this week. We have the Dolphins and the Jets. But before that, I want to get into your prediction for this Chargers versus Bills matchup. What's the score you got? Who's winning?
And so I think this game is going to be close because, as I said, with the Chargers, all 10 of their games up to this point have finished within 10 points. So I'm not going to bet against that trend this deep into the season. But the Bills are going to win. The Bills are simply a better team. They're at home coming off the bye. As Cody well said in the comment, Sean McDermott undefeated after the bye week. The Bills are going to win, but I think it will be close. I've got the Bills winning 30-24.
24. Damn. Wow. I'm so sorry. I'm slow with my mouse again. That happens sometimes. It doesn't look like the Patriots have a game this week. Oh no, they have to play the Cardinals. I'm sorry. But you said 31-24 Bills?
30-24.
30-24. Okay. All right. So I'm also going to take the Bills. This is a game that the Bills have to win. This isn't, I wouldn't call it a must win, but this is a game you should win. Really. You have no excuse to lose to a team such as the Chargers. I touched on it, how they are a talented football team, and maybe their record wouldn't imply how talented they really are. But at the end of the day, like you touched on, Jeff, the Bills are overall the better football team. They're the better coached football team. They have more talent. This is a Chargers team that has been decimated by injuries. Losing Derwin James is huge. Not having Chris Harris for this game is huge. Losing Kazir White to COVID is huge, as well as the uncertainty surrounding running back Austin Eckler. Those are all big factors into this football game. And if any of those players were in this game, maybe I would have a different thing to say in regards to a prediction. Every Chargers game this year has been decided within 10 points. So would I really feel comfortable saying that this game wouldn't be? No, I wouldn't. And I think both teams are going to score over 20. I think the Bills are going to win this one 34-26. That's what I'll go with. I understand 26 is kind of a weird number, but we've seen a lot of weird scores this year regarding the Bills. Speaking of which, the Cardinals visit the Patriots. Who you got and why?
I've got the Cardinals. I think that, as bad as that Hail Mary was for Buffalo, it was great for Arizona as kind of a pick-me-up, a team that was looking for a moment like that to, compete down the stretch in a really good division. I think that Kyler Murray is going to keep it going. Obviously, playing in Gillette Stadium isn't what it once was. The Cardinals will win this game 31-21.
Oh, whoa, my mic was muted. I'm sorry. I wouldn't say that puts the nail.
I didn't know if that was my internet or
I wouldn't say it puts the nail in the Patriots' coffin, so to speak, but I would say that would be a huge loss for the Patriots if they were to lose to the Cardinals. I mean, not necessarily because it's an NFC team, but because the Patriots are running out of lives here and they need to get something going in the right direction. I think the Cardinals are too talented on the offensive side of the ball. I feel like the Patriots have kind of been in a weird mindset these last handful of weeks, and they really, they're on the brink, they're on the fence of being in the playoffs, in the wild card, but then at the same time, the Bills and the Dolphins are kind of both atop this division. So I really don't have confidence in the Patriots beating the Cardinals. I really don't. So I'm going to also take the Cardinals, but I'm going to take them winning 27-16. Now, the Dolphins versus the Jets. Who you got and why?
The Dolphins need a rebound. If the Jets are going to win a game, I don't see this being the one. Dolphins really need this one if they're going to compete for the division. And now they find themselves right in the middle of the wild card hunt with a rookie quarterback. And that's an intriguing place to be. I think that they handle business against the Jets, a rebound week for Tua. The Dolphins figure it out. They win this game 21-16 in a close one. The Jets just played the Chargers close, so that's interesting to know.
Well, they played the Chargers close, and then they've also played the Patriots close. So I think it's a fair assumption to say that this one will also be close. But at the same time, this is a Dolphins team coming off of a loss. They could be looking to make a statement against this Jets team. But my question really is, does Tua have a statement in him? Because I understand all of the hype surrounding Tua Tagovailoa entering last week's game, and I understand the deflation of said hype coming out of last week's game. But to be fair, we haven't really seen, quote unquote, that game from Tua. We've seen throws. We've seen certain plays. We haven't seen a quarter by quarter by quarter by quarter basis of Tua Tagovailoa being a productive quarterback in the National Football League. Now, if it's any team in the league it's going to happen against, I'd say it'd be the Jets. And I don't have confidence in the Jets playing close with a team that, make no mistake about it, I understand. I can poke fun at Tua Tagovailoa and how he said that the league is easier than he expected it to be and what have you. But this Dolphins team, they were winning a lot of those games in that 5-game win streak based on solid defensive play, solid special teams play, foundational things that win you football games, and have had an offense where they've just kind of dragged their offense to victories in those games where the defense and the special teams were playing well. So ultimately, I think the Dolphins will win this game. And I don't know. I think it'll have a little more decisiveness over it. I think it's going to be the Dolphins winning 27-13. That's what I'll go with that. 27-13 Dolphins. But it's been a fun show, Jeff. It really has. This is an exciting game for the Bills. I think this is going to be a very exciting game for fans to watch. I think it's going to be, I wouldn't say a fireworks show, but I know there's going to be some offensive production, and there's going to be a lot of points in this game. I'm really looking forward to it. I think these are two solid young quarterbacks, two quarterbacks in the AFC that, we're going to look at them at the quarterback hierarchy for the next 10 years, in my opinion, with Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. And I don't think this is the last time these two will be meeting. And I think this is only the first time. I think somewhere down the line, you're going to see a very a game like a playoff game. I think these two will meet up in the playoffs in the future. I think these two will have meaningful games where they square off in the future. And I'm excited to see what'll happen in their first matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game, I think. But for the Bills, you really just got to take care of business here. Miami losing that game to Denver last week was really bad for a team that was trending up. And if the Bills lose this game on Sunday, it'll be the same thing. It won't be the end of the world, but you'll be in a lot less favorable position than you would be with a win, especially now that we're starting to look toward the seeding in the AFC and who that potential first-round playoff game might be against.
Yeah. But with that, Jeff, please tell the people where they can find you if they choose to.
You can find me on Twitter at RealJUVEINO. That's RealJUVEINO. You can find me on Twitter at my name, which is at JeffUVEINO. And I'm also on Facebook and probably wherever else you could look to find me.
Be sure to follow the Cold Front Report on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook. That's at Cold Front Report on Twitter, at Cold Front Report _ Bills News on Instagram, and Cold Front Report / Buffalo Bills News on Facebook. And be sure to check out our brand new state-of-the-art webpage, coldfrontreport.com, where you'll find all of the plenty writing content from all of our talented writers, such as John Sparaco. Jeff Uvino will also have a column coming out. I'll be having a column coming out once I get it done. But yeah, be sure to go over there and check out all the content we have coming out on coldfrontreport.com. Brand new state-of-the-art webpage. And to those that are watching, thank you all for watching. For all of those of you listening on Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving, I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your meal. Enjoy your families. And enjoy your dinners, folks. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything in regards to how many people you have gathering. That's your business, not mine. I'm not one of those people. But thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. And this has been the Overtime Podcast presented by the Cold Front Report.